morning, Kidz crossing. Everybody get on your feet, on your feet, on your feet. Get on your feet and do a victory lap around the room. Go, 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 go. Get all the energy out. Well, not quite all of it out because we need some to worship too. But like get the energy started, get it primed all the way around the room. And got to be back in 3, 2, 1. High fives all around. That was the wimpiest high five I've ever done, but they had a good one. So guys, you can see that I'm with some new people. This is Mr. James, this is Miss Allie, this is my roommate, and that is his girlfriend. And we're all going to sing for you today from my apartment. This is where I live. How fun is that? So we're going to do a song. We've done it before at Kidz Crossing, but we've never done it with a group before. So this is cool. The lyrics will be on the screen, so you'll be able to see them. But otherwise, it tells a story about some biblical heroes, and maybe you know who they are. We'll see. All right, let's go. My God's the king of the giants. My God's the king of the lions. My God's the king of the creatures of the deep. My God's the king of me. And I heard the story by my friend King Dave. Wouldn't let the giant stand in his way. He said, hand me my sling, cause I'm not that tall. My God is bigger and I watch him fall. My God's the king of the giants. My God's the king of the lions. My God's the king of the creatures of the deep. My God's the king of me. Have you heard the one about this guy called Dan? He was a mighty holy praying man. They said throw him to the den on the scary beast, but God said to hear from the lion's teeth. And my God's the king of the giants. My God's the king of the lions. My God's the king of the creatures of the deep. My God's the king of me. And this is more than history. He will do the same for me, like Jonah moved the whale at sea. When I'm lost and afraid, all alone in the dark, you're with me. Oh, you're with me. Yeah, my king of the giants. My God's the king of the lions. My God's the king of the creatures of the deep. My God's the king of me. And my God's the king of the giants. My God's the king of the lions. My God's the king of the creatures of the deep. My God's the king of me. And my God's the king of me. And my God's the king of me.
Good morning, Kidz Crossing. This is me, Mr. Bill. Happy Sunday morning and a very happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Hey, kids friends. Make sure you give your moms extra big hugs today. Lots of love for grandmas and all of the mommy people in your lives. Make sure you give lots of love today. While we get together this morning to learn something from the Bible, today we're going to learn that God is faithful. So we're faithful. And in today's Bible story, God is faithful to a man named Nehemiah by giving him all the supplies he needed. Now, let's say I really wanted to make an ice cream sundae. What kinds of supplies should we get together? Well, I think we should pick a good flavor of ice cream. I mean, I'm particularly fond of vanilla. It is the finest of the flavors, but my daughter Bailey would say butter pecan. I think there needs to be chocolate syrup, and I like to warm up some peanut butter sauce, but maybe you like sprinkles or cherries? Go ahead. Type in a couple ideas, shout out a couple ideas, your favorite things to put on an ice cream sundae. Well, gathering supplies for ice cream sundaes sounds pretty nice. And in the Bible, Nehemiah had to gather supplies to fix something that was broken. He was really sad that it was broken, but God was faithful to him. We're going to look today in the Bible at a story in the book of Nehemiah. It's in the Old Testament, and we're just going to look at the very beginning of the story, Nehemiah chapter 1 and 2. The Bible is amazing. It's full of incredible stories, and they're all true. God gave us the Bible so He can speak to us anytime. He is faithful, so He's always here for us. Let's hear from Him as we explore the Bible, okay? So let's dig in. Today, we're going to learn that God is faithful, and sometimes that's easy to believe. When things are going good, it's easy to believe that God is being good to us. No problem. But sometimes, kind of like right now, okay, it seems difficult. It seems hard to believe in God's faithfulness. I mean, we think about the hard time we're going through right now. Maybe you're struggling with feeling alone and not seeing your friends. Maybe you're struggling with being bored and trying to fill your time. Or maybe you know somebody else who's struggling and you just don't know how to help them. Well, when you first find out about your problems, how do you react? Right? When you know there's something wrong going on, what's your first feeling? Well, in our Bible story today, Nehemiah heard some sad news. And before we hear the news, let me tell you a little bit about what was going on at the time. God's people used to live in their own home country. The Israelites lived in Judah, but they kept disobeying God, and eventually God let other people take over the country. Those enemies took the Israelites to another country as captives. Many, many, many years later, God let some of His people return to Jerusalem, the main city, the capital city in Judah. When the Israelites first lived there, a big wall surrounded Jerusalem. Well, our story is about Nehemiah. Nehemiah was one of the Israelites who lived in another country. He worked as a cupbearer for the king, which means that he tasted the king's cup to make sure it wasn't poisoned. The king trusted Nehemiah with his life. Nehemiah felt sad that his people had lost their country, and that's where we pick up our story today. Okay, so I'm in Nehemiah chapter 1, just the very beginning, verses 2, 3, and 4. Hanani, one of my brothers, came to visit me with some other men who had just arrived from Judah. I asked them about the Jews who had survived the captivity and about how things were going in Jerusalem, and they said to me, Things are not going well for those who returned to the province of Judah. They are in great trouble and disgrace. The walls of Jerusalem have been torn down and the gates have been burned. And when I heard this, I sat down and I wept, really cried. In fact, for days I mourned and fasted and prayed to God in heaven. Now, tell me a time that something you loved was destroyed or messed up. Earlier we talked about how we reacted when we heard about our problems, but how did Nehemiah react? He cried, didn't he? Would you think you might react the same way? Nehemiah prayed because he remembered that God is faithful. Faithful means you stick with someone and keep your promises. And as I read Nehemiah's prayer, listen for ways Nehemiah talked about God keeping promises and sticking with His people. This comes from Nehemiah 1, 8 and 9. It says, Please remember what you told your servant Moses. If you sin, I will scatter you among the nations. But if you return to me and obey my commands, even if you are exiled to the ends of the earth, I will bring you back to the place I have chosen for my name to be honored. We are your servants, the people you rescued by your great power and might. O Lord, please hear my prayer. Listen to the prayers of those of us who delight in honoring you. Please grant me success now as I go ask the king for a great favor. Put it into his heart to be kind to me. What things did you notice about these verses that show God is faithful? Did you see or hear Nehemiah reminding God of the good things he had done before and the promises he had made? Do you think Nehemiah trusted God to hear his prayers? Oh, when Nehemiah heard the bad news about the wall, he turned to God first. He trusted that God is faithful, and he didn't doubt God. So, let's use this piece of foil to think about the ways we react to bad news. Now, For our little illustration here, this piece of foil is you. When something bad happens and you don't turn to God, the bad thing can easily make your heart feel broken. Oh no. But when we turn to God in prayer and trust that God is faithful, He helps us to be strong and have a strong faith. So instead of being all spread out like this, we put all of our faith, get it all together, focused on God. And now, when I try to tear it, I just make it stronger. When you turn to God in prayer and trust His faithfulness, He helps us to be strong and have a strong faith. Does this foil help you think differently about the bad times that we're going through? Well, God is faithful, so we're faithful. We don't let bad times tear us apart. Instead, we let bad times help our faith grow stronger. Now, Nehemiah trusted that God is faithful, and God was so faithful to Nehemiah. Nehemiah got a chance to talk to the king in this foreign country about how sad he was about the wall. Listen to what the king says. Now, I want you to know that the king was not a man who believed in God. So in Nehemiah chapter 2, verses 4 through 6, the king asked, "Well, how can I help you?" With a prayer to the God of heaven, I replied, "If it please your majesty, and if you are pleased with me, your servant, send me to Judah to rebuild the city where my ancestors are buried." The king, with the queen sitting beside him, asked, "How long will you be gone? When will you return?" And so the king agreed, and I set a date for my departure. Can you believe it? The king said yes. And next, Nehemiah asked the king for specific things to help. In verse 7, and so I also asked the king, "If it pleases your majesty, please give me letters to the governors of the province west of the Euphrates River. Instruct them to let me travel safely through their territories on my way to Judah. And please send a letter to Asaph, the manager of the king's forest, instructing him to give me timber. I will need it to make beams for the gates of the temple fortress, for the city wall, and for the house for myself." Nehemiah needed wood, and so he asked for it, and God was faithful. Not only that, but the king sent an army with Nehemiah. He got the supplies to build the wall and an army to help protect him. I have my little army men here. God was faithful to Nehemiah, and God is faithful to us too. There's one more supply we need to help us remember that God is faithful. Now, God has made promises to us, and I've shared some of those this last week on our Facebook page, so you can go check those out. But verses that remind us that God will always take care of us if we turn to Him. He is faithful. Nehemiah faithfully obeyed God's calling to rebuild the wall, and God faithfully helped Nehemiah. In fact, Nehemiah and a team of people rebuilt the wall in just 52 days. That's less time than we have been in quarantine doing our social distancing thing. Okay, that's less than 2 months. Think about this for a minute. God showed His faithfulness by making a way for Nehemiah to fix the wall. Nehemiah obeyed faithfully, and it was made so. Think about this question. What's a way God is calling you to be faithful to Him? You can comment below. God is faithful, so we're faithful. Nehemiah never could have built that wall without God's faithful help. But because God is faithful and Nehemiah turned to Him, Nehemiah overcame all of the obstacles, and there was even more stuff that got in the way. If you want to read more of Nehemiah on your own or with your family, it's a great story of God's faithfulness and Nehemiah trusting God in the face of some pretty tough circumstances. So when you're faithful to do what God says, He'll be faithful to help you to get it done, to get you through it. You never have to obey just by trying really hard on your own. God is faithful, and He'll be there to help you, just like He's here to help us. Right? He will give us the supplies we need. He will surround us with people to help us. Okay? God is with us. And if we turn to our Bibles, right, we can read the stories and be reminded. Well, I want to pray for you. I want to thank you for coming. All right. Dear God, thank you for being faithful. Lord, teach us what it means to stay close to you and to do as you ask of us. God, be with my friends this week. Be with their moms as they have a special time together. And Lord, I just can't wait till we get a chance to be face to face and to share some hugs and high fives. Lord, you are so good to us even now. We love you. Amen. All right, my friends. I'll see you next week. Bye.